So last week, AFL Evo made some pretty wild and crazy predictions, and the crazy thing is, some of them actually came true. Now we'll start off back on Thursday night, Richmond versus Carlton, the typical season opener. AFL Evo got this one pretty right in the end. I mean, look, it wasn't an exact one-for-one kind of thing with the margin or whatever, but it wasn't far off. I mean, what was it, like 18 points in the end, something like that, and Richmond in the end, in reality, won by like 25 points, so about a goal off, but it got the right team, and it wasn't far off with the margin either, so that's a pretty good start for AFL Evo. Unfortunately, it went downhill pretty fast here, because it tipped Collingwood to beat the Bulldogs, which we know didn't happen. Again, the scores were kind of similar, you know, in the 60s, 70s for the prediction, and in the 50s and 60s for the actual game. But no, it got the wrong team, it got the margin incorrect, so got that one fairly wrong. And then the first of the crazy predictions came in with the game predicting that Freo would beat Melbourne by 71 points. As we know, that didn't happen. I'm not mad at all as a Freo supporter, but I'm like, come on. You got Adelaide right, you got Brisbane right, but you couldn't get this one right. Come on. In the end for that one, the D's won that by 22 points. That was an interesting game. I think Freo played really poorly, and they'll be much better, hopefully, in the weeks to come. Melbourne, on the other hand, I don't know what to think of them. I don't think they were that impressive. They beat a poor opponent, they got the job done, they did what they had to do. Maybe they'll have a really good season, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think either of these teams would be too impressed by their round one performance, especially Freo. So then, Adelaide took on Geelong, and all hell broke loose. What the hell happened over in Adelaide? The Crows in the end winning that one by 12 points after, you know, pushing it out to something like 40 points during the game. AFL Evo predicted about 23 points, I think it was, in the margin, so a couple of goals off with the margin, but the fact that it predicted Adelaide to win at all is pretty crazy. So credit to AFL Evo for this insane prediction that it got right. Everyone tore shreds off AFL Evo, and we all said how crazy and stupid this prediction was. But I said that it is usually the crazy ones that AFL Evo manages to get right. The ones that seem totally ridiculous and impossible, those are the ones that AFL Evo usually manages to just get right. Again, it didn't do that with Fremantle, but you know. And credit to Adelaide as well for this major upset. I mean, no one saw this coming. You know, the odds were stacked against them. No one gave them a chance, and they went and did it. And particularly that first quarter, I watched that game, and their pressure in that first quarter was magnificent. I mean, at the very least, you may not be the most skilled team out there, but you put on that kind of pressure week in, week out, you're going to be in more games than you're going to be out of. So credit to Adelaide for that, and what an upset. I mean, that is upset of the year. I don't think anything can top that now. Evo predicted a 32-point win for Essendon over the Hawks, and it was looking pretty good with Essendon up by 40 points at about half-time or something like that. Then it all just went downhill for the Bombers. The Hawks storming back and winning it by 1 point. A great game. I think the Bombers will be disappointed to have let that one slip. Look, the prediction, it got the team wrong, it got the margin wrong, but I mean, it was in the ballpark at half-time at least. Then we had Brisbane and Sydney at the Gabba. AFL Evo predicted Sydney to win, and again we all said, nah, no chance, especially at the Gabba. Brisbane aren't going to drop this one. But then they did. Here's the thing, the game only predicted it by like 7 points or something like that. In the end they won by 31 points, so you know, the game underestimating Sydney, really. It makes it a very interesting clash in round 2 because Brisbane and Geelong go head to head. You could not have scripted that any better. To have the two teams that probably underperformed and were on the receiving end of the huge upset losses, to have those two teams go head to head in round 2, that's a pretty interesting clash, and we'll see who manages to get their season back on track. I gotta say, I think this loss is pretty concerning for Brisbane. To start the season, they're supposed to be a real premiership threat. This was kind of meant to be their year. They were one of those teams that were going to be up there, and to start it off playing a team they should beat, to lose, to not just lose, but to lose by 31 points. I think that's the difference. When you compare the Geelong and Brisbane, their games, like Geelong would be disappointed with their performance, but I think they did come back and they came very close to snatching it towards the end. Brisbane losing by 31 points though, they'd be really disappointed with that. So we'll see if it was just kind of like a poor start, or, you know, are they just not going to have as good a year as we all predicted? So Evo predicted North Melbourne to just get over the line against the Power. Could not have been more wrong there. Port Adelaide making it look easy against North. It also picked the Giants to beat the Saints. That was a 50-50 game, and it was pretty close in the end there, Saints just getting over the line. That helped my tipping a lot, but it didn't help Evo's predictions much at all. And then West Coast over Gold Coast, they won by like 25 points in the end or something, so about 4 goals. Evo predicted West Coast to win by about 40, so again, underestimating the Suns there. So if I've done my math correctly, I think AFL Evo's got about 4 out of 9 correct, which quite frankly is a really bad round. That's terrible tipping. I mean, I should know, I got like 7 out of 9, so you know, I'm really great and I'm really chuffed about that. But it predicted the two massive upsets, which I think you got to give it credit for. I mean, I'm not going to give any bonus points for AFL Evo's predictions, but if I did, I'd give it a couple for that, because that's pretty crazy. And let's also remember that I got 7 out of 9. I'm just going to bring that up again because, you know, I've been terrible at tipping for like the last 7 years. I did really well in 2013, but I didn't win. And then I've been down the bottom ever since. I've been like on a 7-year rebuild, 6, 7, 8-year rebuild. So, 7 out of 9 for me is like, that's it. I'm hanging up the boots now in terms of tipping. Like, just give me the trophy, because it's only going to be downhill for me, for my tipping here. So, yeah.